You know how Fox has a weird way of counting Simpsons episodes? They refuse to count a couple of them, making the amount of episodes inconsistent. The reason for this is a lost episode from season 1. Finding details about this missing episode is difficult. No one who was working on the show at the time likes to talk about it. From what has been pieced together, the lost episode was written entirely by Matt Groening. During production of the first season, Matt started to act strangely. He was very quiet, seemed nervous and morbid. Mentioned this to anybody who was present, as present results in them getting very angry and forbidding you to ever mention it to Matt. I first heard of it in an event where David Silverman was speaking. Someone in the crowd asked about the episode, and Silverman simply left the stage, ending the presentation hours early. The episode's production number was 7G06. The title was Dead Bart. And the episode label 7G06 Mona Lisa was made later and given Dead Bart's production code to hide the latter's existence. In addition to getting angry, asking anybody who was on the show about this will cause them to do everything they can stop you from directly communicating with Matt Groening. At a fan event, I managed to follow him after he spoke to the crowd and eventually had a chance to talk with him alone as he was leaving the building. He didn't seem upset that I had followed him. Probably expected a typical encounter with an obsessive fan. When I mentioned the lost episode though, all colour drained from his face and he started trembling. When I asked him if he could tell me any details, he sounded like he was on the verge of tears. He grabbed a piece of paper, wrote something on it, and handed it to me. He begged I never mention the episode again. The piece of paper had a web address on it. I'd rather not say what it was, for reasons you'll see in a second. I entered the address into my browser, and came to the site. It was completely black, except for a line of yellow text, a download link. I clicked on it. The file started downloading. Once the file was downloaded, my computer went crazy. It was the worst virus I had ever seen. System restore didn't work. The entire computer had to be rebooted. Before doing this, though, I copied the file onto a CD. I tried to open it now on my empty computer, and as I suspected, there was an episode of The Simpsons on it. The episode starts off like any other episode. There's very poor quality animation. If you've seen the original animation of Some Enchanted Evening, it was similar, but less stable. The first act was fairly normal, but the way the characters acted was a little off. Homer seemed angrier, Marge seemed depressed, Lisa seemed anxious, Bart seemed to have a genuine anger and hatred for his parents. The episode was about the Simpsons going on a plane trip. Near the end of the first act, the plane was taking off. Bart was fooling around, as you'd expect. However, the plane was about 50 feet off the ground. Bart broke the window of the plane and was sucked out. At the beginning of the series, Matt had an idea that the animated style of the systems would represent life, and that death turned things more realistic. This was used in an episode. The picture of Bart's corpse was barely recognisable. They took full advantage of it not having to move, and made it almost photorealistic drawing of his dead body. Act 1 ended with the shot of Bart's corpse, and Act 2 started. Homer, Marge and Lisa were sitting on their table crying. The crying went on and on. It got more pained and sounded more realistic. Better acting than you could think possible. The animation started to decay even more as they cried, and you could hear murmuring in the background. The characters could barely be made out. They were stretching and blurring. They looked like deformed shadows with random bright colours thrown on them. Their faces looking in the window, flashing in and out so you're never sure what they looked like. This crying went on for Act 2. Act 3 opened with a little title card saying 1 year had passed. Homer, Marge and Lisa were skeletally thin, still sitting at the table. A was no sign of Maggie or the pets. They decided to visit Bart's grave. Springfield was completely deserted as they walked to the cemetery. The houses became more and more decrepit. They all looked abandoned. When they got to the grave, Bart's body was lying in front of his tombstone, looking just like it did at the end of Act 1. The family started crying again. Eventually they stopped, just stared at Bart's body. The camera zoomed in on Homer's face, according to the summaries. Homer tells a joke in this part that it isn't audible in the version I saw. You can't tell what Homer was saying. The view zoomed out, and the episode came to a close. The tombstones in the background had the name of every Simpsons guest star on them. Some that no one had heard of in 1989. Some that haven't been on the show yet. All of them had death dates on them. But guess who had died since, like Michael Jackson or George Harrison? The dates were when they would die. The credits were completely silent and seemed handwritten. The final image was the Simpsons family on their couch, like in the intros, but all drawn hyper-realistic, lifeless style of Bart's corpse. A thought occurred to me after seeing the episode for the first time. You could try to use tombstones to predict the deaths of living Simpsons guest stars. There's something odd about most of the ones who haven't died yet. All of their deaths were listed at the same date.